Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into worn sandals on the cobblestones of Imperial Rome. Dawn's first light, already sweating through your tunic. The Aventine Hill slums hum like beehives kicked by sandals bakers. Ovens puffing sourdough clouds into alleys too narrow for secrets, your breakfast. Handfuls of stale spelt bread eaten while dodging mule carts hauling oysters from Ostia. Historians still argue whether Rome's noise pollution rivaled modern cities, but your throbbing temples vote yes. You sidestep a puddle reeking of nightsoul, or is that garum sauce spilled from a drunk supper? A fishmonger screeches about fresh mackerel, judge freshness by the swarm of flies, not his grin. Your sandal snags on a rut worn by 10,000 chariot wheels, proof even stone yields to constant pressure. Fun fact, those purple stripes on senators' robes, harvested from sea snails each cloak, costing more than your entire apartment block. A fruit seller thrusts figs at your face, sticky pulp oozing between his fingers like congealed blood. You mutter a prayer to Mercury for quick haggling. He's the god of commerce and thieves. Your copper coins vanish into his palm. He spits on them for luck before pocketing your breakfast. Look left. A patrician's litter glides past on Nubian slaves. Shoulders, silk, curtains, hiding cheeks, rouged with crushed rose petals. Beware pickpockets. A centurion bellows, too busy confiscating a butcher's scale for cheating the public trust. You clutch your coin pouch tighter, only to realize it's already slashed open threads, still warm from the blade. Might as well laugh. Tomorrow's wages will vanish into the same tax collector's purse anyway. The baker's daughter winks as she kneads dough, her forearms dusted in flour like marble statues in the forum. You're no poet, but even Ovid would stumble describing the curve of her elbow. She mouths, "Come back at dusk." Then her father slams the shutters, crushing the fantasy like grapes in a wine press. 800,000 souls crammed within these walls, yet somehow loneliness finds you like a stray dog. Your stomach growls louder than the Senate's debates. Maybe skip the fig vendor's bruised leftovers today. That hiccuping fountain's been broken since Caesar crossed the Rubicon. The basin's green with algae ore. Is that a senator's discarded wig? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment too. Where are you joining from tonight? Barcelona, Mumbai, Saskatchewan, however distant, we're all walking these Roman alleys together now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Sunlight bleeds across the Tiber, gilding the basilica's dome, while your shadow stretches thin as papyrus. A passerby hawks lead-based face cream, guaranteed to whiten skin. You decline, better to smell like sweat than poison. The cloth factories' looms already clatter behind you. Each day weaves identical tunics for citizens you'll never meet. Ever heard of fullers using human urine to clean clothes? That acidic stench wafting from yonder vats explains why history's least romantic detergent. Your landlord's seagull voice cuts through the din. Rent's due at noon. He owns 6 insulary slums, all leaning like drunk gladiators after a feast. The crowd parts for a priestess rattling bronze sistrum, her eyes rolled back in ecstatic communion with Isis. You press against a wall plastered with election slogans. Lucius Papitius promises cheaper wine. Graffiti underneath scrawls. Liar. A child's clay doll crunches underfoot, its painted smile now shards in the gutter. You drop a sestertius. By the weeping girl, her mother snatches it before the coinsingers can. Across the street, a Syrian merchant unpacks glassware wrapped in Egyptian linen. Each cup costs a year's rent. Your fingers itch to touch the cobalt blue ones. But you've learned how brittle beautiful things are here. The public sundial claims it's the second hour bulls. That shadow hasn't moved since the emperor adjusted timekeeping for his birthday festival. Your stomach's a better chronometer anyway, grumbling louder as midwives dump bloody rags into the sewer. A one-legged veteran sings off-key odes to Pompey's campaigns. His cup holds more flies than coppers. Dust coats your tongue like unspoken curses. Hydration's a gamble between dysentery and dehydration. You choose thirst. A water seller's barrels slosh past his donkey's ribs, jut like city gates. Uncut with Tiber filth, he promises. Your throat burns, but the memory of last summer's plague stays your hand. Suddenly, trumpets. The crowd freezes as Praetorian guards clear the road for a consular procession. You glimpse the consul's litter, gold-leafed and reeking of myrrh, before a guardsman's boot shoves you into a stall of rotting cabbages. Citizen, he sneers, the title tasting fouler than the produce. The mid-morning sun climbs higher, relentless as a debt collector. Somewhere beyond these alleys, aqueducts nourish opulent gardens, but your world smells of piss and baked clay. You glance at the forum's marble columns, illusion of order crumbling, when a stray dog lifts its leg on Julius Caesar's statue. That crack in your ceiling will leak again tonight, a fact as certain as crucifixions after slave revolts. The bread dole line snakes into the distance. Women bribe officials with their bodies, men with whispers of blackmail. You approach, hoping today's ration isn't weevil infested. The clerk's stylus hovers over your name. His smile says everything costs extra this month. So you turn away. Hunger's cheaper than humiliation. A rat scampers by with a silver spoon in its jaws, plundered from some senator's gutter banquet. Your laugh comes out jagged. The sound startles a vestal virgin passing in her curtained chair. For half a heartbeat, your eyes meet through the linen veil. Then she's gone, taking her sacred flame where plebs can't follow. The bathhouse beckons with promises of steam, but entry costs 2 coppers you don't have. Instead, you splash face. The senator's shadow stretches across your hose splintered handle. His silk robes billow like laughably impractical sails. You've perfected the art of staring through marble columns, eyes fixed on wheat fields, while patrician voices dissect poetry and war. Your tunic chafes, salt-encrusted skin, their perfumes smell of roses plucked by slaves you'll never meet. Noon sun punishes bent backs. A foreman barks. You straighten just enough to glimpse mosaic courtyards where water nymphs spit into opulent pools. Historians still argue whether plebeians ever tasted those waters, or if dignity trickled down like overflow from an overfilled cup. Your hands crave the coolness of villa walls, instead gripping a wooden plow older than your grandfather's ghost. Dinner means a shared clay pot, lentil stew, with a single bay leaf floating like a shipwrecked noble. Across the valley, feasts unfold. Peacock tongues glazed in honey wine, dormice stuffed with walnuts. Rumor says some patricians sprinkle crushed pearls into bread dough for better digestion. You chew coarse millet, its grit between your molars, a brutal counterpoint to their gilded excess. Even prayers divide. You whisper to Ceres over shriveled barley. They commission ivory statues of Jupiter with gemstone eyes. A centurion's widow spits at your feet, her bronze rings catching light as she mutters about ungrateful rabble. The Lex Hortensia supposedly gave plebeians legal equality, yet your testimony still holds less weight than a patrician's belch. Nightfall brings no reprieve. You mend leaky roofs by oil lamp, while owls hoot from cypress trees lining estate walls. A drunk young noble stumbles past, dropping a fig that rolls into sewage runoff. His laughter follows you home, a hyena's cackle blending with the clink of slave chains. You dream of scaling that social ladder, but the rungs are splintered, and the fall never ends. The bread's crust crackles like dried parchment. You break it with hands still dusted from the brick kiln. 17 workmates huddle in a sliver of shade. Their laughter rasps as parched as the Tiber in August. A clay jug circles the group. Warm water mixed with vinegar bites your throat. A poor man's pascha, even legionaries would scorn. Your portion, half a barley loaf, so dense it could mortar aqueducts, and a thumb-sized smear of garum. That fish gut sauce reeks like Neptune's armpit, but it masks the taste of week-old grain. Historians still argue whether laborers ate sitting or standing, the answers written in your throbbing calves. You'd trade a month's wages for a single plump date from Syria, but fantasy dissolves under the foreman's whistle. Across the worksite, a cart creaks. Slaves unload oysters packed in snow from the Alban hills. The ice costs more than their lives. You watch a patrician's steward lick brine off his fingers. Your companion Tullius chuckles darkly. He once smuggled a discarded shell home. His children used it as a toy boat till hunger sold it. The olive appears like a miracle, plucked from a merchant's dropped satchel. 20 calloused hands pass it reverently. Each worker takes one delicate nibble. Papyri claim emperors bathed in olive oil. You savor the fruit's smoky tang like it's ambrosia itself. Salt lingers on your tongue for 3 breaths. You're richer than Crassus. Stories flow with the wine ration. A half-blind mason swears he fought Boudicca's rebels. Their war chariots had blades on the wheels. His tale unravels as a red-robed clerk passes. Voices hush. Truth bleeds into myth. Here, every scar becomes a battle. Every burn a barbarian raid. Someone produces a die carved from knucklebone. It's passed around for luck. Gambling's illegal for your class, but Jupiter Optimus Maximus isn't watching this grimy corner. You roll a Venus throw, grins flash through missing teeth. Your reward, an extra onion slice. Its bitter crunch drowns the dust, coating your teeth. Sunlight glints off the Colosseum's unfinished arches. You count 86 steps left before the next break. The foreman's tally stick notches another hour. Blisters split open as you grip chisels. Above, a well-fed bureaucrat recites poetry about babbling brooks. You whisper your own ode to the pisspot nobodies emptied since dawn. Laughter erupts when young Marcus mimics a senator's lisp. The sound dies as a mounted guard trots past. His horse's polished hoof nearly crushes the olive pit now ground into mud alongside your dignity. The Republic's dead. Long live the Empire. Same shit, fancier titles. Someone mutters about the new tax on donkeys. Your mind drifts to the rumor about Glabrio's wife betting a gladiator. Gossip's the true currency here. Copper coins can't buy satire this sharp. You trade a joke about the emperor's limp. It's worth the risk. Even bile tastes sweet when shared. The final whistle shatters the respite. You rise, spine popping like kindling, and pocket a crumb for the shrine at home. Vesta better appreciate this offering. The ruins won't build themselves, and neither will the lies that keep them standing. Steam wraps around you like a wet wolf pelt. Bathhouse attendants thrust a strigil into your palm. Their bored eyes scan your calluses, no oils for the laborer class. You scrape grime off your shins. Each curl of filth splashes into the communal trough. Patrician children hold their noses. Their ruby-studded nosegates can't mask 8 hours of brick dust. The hypocausts rumble vibrates through cracked tiles. Engineers still copy this underfloor heating centuries later. A senator's laugh bounces off the dome. He's bragging about buying a Germanic chieftain's spear polished now as a backscratcher. You wince as hot water hits fresh blisters. Pain's the great unifier here. Historians love debating if these baths truly mixed classes. Right now, you're naked beside a tax collector's hairy moles. Draw your own conclusions. Someone splashes towards the cold plunge, a merchant famed for spice smuggling. His leg, tattoos snarl Celtic curses, or maybe laundry lists. You dunk underwater to escape his monologue about Egyptian silk prices. Bubbles rise as you grin, one advantage of plebeian life. Nobody expects small talk. A slave boy slips you a sliver of stolen soap. It reeks of juniper and poor decisions. You scrub armpits raw while 2 politicians gossip nearby. Their whispers slither over the steam. The emperor's new heir likes dressing as Neptune's bride. You cough to mask a snort, divine cross-dressing beats, your fourth wife's moth-eaten stola. The laconicum's heat uncoils muscle knots. You count 12 ceiling cracks, shaped like Britannia. Warmth almost lets you forget the brick kiln until a familiar voice barks orders. Your foreman floats belly up in the pool, his throat emits gurgled commands. Even here, he can't stop tallying work quotas. Someone dares to splash him. Progress, a wrinkled matron, offers you webbed sandals, wooden soles guaranteed to prevent floor fungi. Used by Tiberius himself, she croaks. You decline politely. 3 denarii could feed your sister's twins for a weekend. Everyone knows Tiberius died afoot, rot anyway. A splash erupts near the frigidarium. A drunk knight slipped on algae. His friends howl as he belly flops. Their laughter dies when they recognize the victim local magistrate's nephew. Suddenly, it's all helping hands and feigned concern. You sink deeper into the steam. Hypocrisy's cheapest spectacle. The water boy mutters about eel migrations fouling the aqueducts. Last week's dysentery outbreak makes sudden sense. You eye your pruned fingers, better thirsty than spewing from both ends. A guardsman boasts he once drank from the Rhine. His ulcer scars gleam like victory medals. Crimson light filters through alabaster windows. Your cue to leave before dusk surcharges hit. You towel off with a threadbare linen, strip patricians get pre-warmed robes, naturally. As you exit, a veiled woman drops her strigil, its silver, edged with pearl. You kick it towards her discreetly, her nods so slight, you almost miss it. Rome's closest thing to gratitude. Outside, the cold slaps your flushed skin, reality's rude awakening. A slave adjusts a noble sedan chair curtains. You recognize his crooked finger from the grain dole riots. His glance says everything. Steam may blur the classes, but wool tunics cling tighter than silk. You trudge homeward, damp sandals sucking at mud, as bathhouse laughter fades behind you. Tomorrow's filth is already gathering. Your sandals skid on goose droppings. A flock trails the third, Legion's latest recruits. The road reeks of wet wool and ambition, fresh-faced boys mimicking their centurion's swagger. You duck into an alley. Avoiding the march feels traitorous. But your brother's absence is a raw nerve. A courier blocks your door, tapping a lead scroll case. Military issue, ribbed edges digging into his palm like a punishment. He demands a tip with a yawn. You barter a clay lamp instead. His sneer says it all. Sibling devotions, cheaper these days. The wax seal cracks with a sound like tiny bones snapping. Your brother's handwriting wobbles. Ink blots mimic alpine snowmelt. Frostbite took Scribonius first. He kept joking about Venus's goosebumps. You trace the smudged vibe letters stamped on the parchment. Legion's stationery doubles as toilet paper if morale plummets. He mentions Patavium-bred mules hauling ballistae through passes. Historians still argue whether those square formations were tactical genius or desperate chaos. You imagine him huddled between ox carts, breath fogging the air as Pictish chants echo, their language twists like briars. He writes, though that's mostly the dysentery talking. A sketch falls out crude but unmistakable. Soldiers ice fishing through a frozen lake using pilums as spears. One's hooked a trout longer than his forearm. The caption, Legio IX, Hispana's secret victory feast. You snort. They'd executed a chef last year for undersalted garum. He's traded 2 wool socks for Gaulish. Razors now his shaves. Draw blood daily. A postscript mentions vinegar, drunk diluted to fight fever, splashed raw on arrow wounds. Archaeologists will later find vats of that stuff in every fort along, with more cursed tablets than prayers. Night falls as you reread the letter. A mouse gnaws on barley sacks. You let it feast. Your brother once spared a dormouse during the siege of Arelate, hid it in his helmet for weeks. Shared rations, shared lice. A neighbor's baby wails, you stuff wax in your ears. Constantinus used to hum Etruscan lullabies during raids. His voice cracked on high notes soldiers pretended not to weep. Now, you hum the same tune while kneading dough, a poor substitute. But flour holds memories better than stone. Dawn brings a smith's hammering. Someone's reforging a shattered gladius. You count each clang, 37 before the rhythm falters. Consul Claudius preferred odd numbers in military counts. Said even digits invited bad luck, whether that kept him alive or just annoying. Legion lore never clarifies. The courier returns at midday, tongue loosened by cheap Posca. He'll head north tomorrow, any reply. You hesitate. Words feel inadequate against wolf attacks and frost-choked rivers. Finally, you sketch a phallus charm on papyrus crude, but it's what legionaries carve on watchtowers. Survival's lowest common denominator. As he pockets it, his sleeve rides up. A fresh brand mars his wrist. Deserters get that mark, or maybe he just owed the wrong bookie. You don't ask. Roman roads run both ways. Judgment's a luxury for people who sleep under roofs. Nightfall again. Your oil lamp sputters. Goat fat fumes sting worse than tear gas. You reread his line about rivers that bleed from glacier cuts. Poetic, for a man who once ate a live crab on a dare. The parchment's edge holds a brown smear wine, or blood pretending to be wine. Footsteps outside, too heavy for your landlord. You stash the letter under a loose tile. Clay dust coats your fingertips, reminds you of childhood forts built in bean fields. He'd always insisted on guard duty, even when the only invaders were stray goats. Moonlight stripes the floor. Somewhere beyond the Alps, your brother's polishing a rusted Pugio. His breath fogs the whetstone. Your breath fogs a jar of pickled olives. 2 rhythms, 1 empire. Sleep claims you with the unsent question stuck in your throat. How many winters before his bones forget the Tiber's curve? Dawn's first light filters through your shutter cracks. Another day owed to the gods. You pocket a copper coin worn smooth as a politician's promise. The walk to Minerva's shrine stinks of yesterday's sacrifices, burnt fat clinging to your tunic like a needy child. A priest intercepts you at the bronze doors. The owl-eyed goddess favors dawn petitioners. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. You've seen warmer expressions on marble busts. The myrrh in your hand costs half a week's wages. Its resinous scent can't mask your empty coin purse. Inside, smoke stings like vinegar on a wound. A dozen others kneel before the altar. Their whispered prayers form a low hum. Minerva's statue gleams with fresh oil probably squeezed from olives you harvested last season. Your calloused thumb rubs the copper's edge. Caesar's profile stares back, judging your frugality. 3 priestesses circle the flame pit, their linen robes swishing like brooms over stone. One drips honey into the fire. It hisses, sweetness as sacrifice. You wonder if ants ever storm temples for such waste. The rich donate silver platters. You offer hunger. Your copper clinks beside 30 others in the offering tray. Minerva's wisdom apparently works bulk discounts. The head priest mutters an Etruscan hymn under his breath. Or maybe a laundry list. Historians still argue whether temple rites strengthened Roman morals or just funded better priestly wine cellars. A drunk poet once claimed temple doves predict grain prices by how they crap on statues. You half believe him. Last summer's bird strike coincided with a barley glut. Today's dove perches on Minerva's spear. Its droppings miss the incense bowl by a thumb's width. Market prices should hold. The stone floor numbs your knees through thin wool kneeling's easier when you pretend it's just another market queue. Smoke threads through sunlight like visible drafts of divine attention. You bargain silently, protect your brother from alpine wolves, and you'll what? Sweep temple steps. Stop cursing the tax collector's name. A priest taps your shoulder with a cedar rod. The goddess prefers specifics. His breath smells of figs and lies. You invent a vow to donate your next pair of sandals, knowing full well they'll disintegrate by the Ides. When the flame gutters, swallowing your myrrh, the priest declares Minerva pleased. His tone suggests the goddess grades on a curve. Outside, a merchant slave cleans pigeon shit from Jupiter's statue using your brother's old tunic. You recognize the darned elbow patch. The copper bought you 17 heartbeats of holy favor. You linger anyway, watching a patrician woman offer pearl earrings. Her serving girl mouths apologies to the statue, probably for whatever her mistress just wished upon rivals. Hunger drives you to the street vendors. A baker trades stale rolls for temple incense ash, improves the rise. He insists. You pocket the bread, doubting Minerva's involvement in yeast diplomacy. Down the street, a soothsayer reads wine dregs for sailors. His predictions smell like fermented desperation. Night falls with the weight of unpaid promises. Your last oil lamp flickers, casting Minerva's shadow across the wall. It mimics the hand gestures from this morning's rituals. Or maybe it's just the wick needing a trim. You'll trade prayers for practicality. Tomorrow, assuming the gods accept rain checks, the oil lamp's last sputter dies. Midnight aches thicker than olive paste. Your sister's choked gasp slices through thin walls. You're on your feet before the blanket slips, bare toes, meeting cold floor tiles. Her straw-filled mattress crackles like a distant bonfire. 3 knocks summon the midwife, a widow whose hands smell of pennyroyal and stale wine. She barges in, trailed by a slave girl clutching rusty birthing hooks. Light every candle. The command hangs in the air. You scramble for tallow stubs buried under moth-eaten tunics. Your sister grips your wrist, her nails carving half-moons into your skin. Historians still argue whether Roman childbirth mortality rates reached 1 in 3, or if grave inscriptions exaggerate the toll. Her sweat-soaked hair leaves dark stains on the linen pillow, a map of unseen battles. The midwife barks orders like a legion commander. Boil water, fetch goose fat, and someone move that yapping dog. The slave trips over a clay amphora. Its crack echoes like a bad omen. You mutter a prayer to Juno Lucina, goddess of light and desperate lies. They used wolf teeth as birthing amulets in your grandmother's time, a superstition now banned by fussy priests. You palm a smuggled canine anyway, its edges worn smooth from generations of panicked squeezes. The midwife spots it and scoffs. Better to trust my forceps than some barbaric charm. Hours blur measured by your sister's weakening cries and the slave's endless water fetches. The midwife mutters about breech positions, a term that chills your blood faster than winter Tiber currents. Someone's sacrificed dove coos outside. You briefly envy its uncomplicated egg-laying. Push. The command comes between contractions, a cruel joke. Your sister's wail merges with a thunderclap, Jupiter Pluvius, asserting his editorial presence. Rain slaps the roof tiles, nature's attempt to drown out human suffering. The midwife's arm disappears under bloodied linens. Her scowl deepens. Dawn's first blush creeps through the window, pale as a sick child's cheeks. A final scream rips through the room, then silence. The midwife lifts a purpled infant, slapping its back with the precision of a butcher tenderizing meat. The newborn's cry is raspy but relentless, a war trumpet in miniature. Your sister collapses against soaked pillows, her smile shaky as a drunkard's handwriting. You count tiny fingers 10, toes 10. The slave girl weeps into her apron, whether from relief or trauma. You don't ask. Swaddle him tight. Weak lungs need compression. The midwife tosses your nephew into your arms like a writhing sack of grain. Wool scraps chafe your palms, rejected military cloaks from the Legion's last campaign. His face scrunches, an emperor displeased by inferior tribute. Blood pools on the floor, thick and dark as garum sauce. The midwife packs your sister's womb with wool soaked in honey wine, stops the bleeding sometimes. Her shrug isn't comforting. You focus on the baby's heat, a living brazier against your chest. The slave mops crimson streaks, watery swirls, painting grotesque flowers. Historians will later romanticize Roman childbirth as a sacred domestic ritual. They clearly never smelled placental stench mixed with burned hair. Your sister drifts into fitful sleep, her hand still crushing the wolf tooth amulet. Outside, the rain stops, revealing a stray dog licking birthing fluids off the doorstep. You kick it away gently, half wishing it would steal the swaddling cloth and end this fragile responsibility. The midwife departs with 2 denarii and your last jar of preserved figs, her payment smelling suspiciously light. Sunlight now gilds the room, exposing cracked walls and chipped jugs. Your nephew roots against your collarbone, instinct outpacing strength. You drip watered wine onto his gums, the closest thing to a wet nurse you can afford. His brow furrows, future philosopher or chronic complainer. Too soon to tell. The midwife's slave lingers, her gaze glued to the sleeping mother. My mistress says 7 days, that's when the fever comes if it comes. She flees before you can demand clarification. Measured breaths fill the silence, yours, the baby's, your sister's, none quite in rhythm. By midday, the room reeks of myrrh and iron temple, scent meets butcher shop. Your sister wakes craving pickled fish, a sign even the gods couldn't invent. You trade your belt buckle for a jar from the docks, questioning every brined anchovy's origin. Nightfall finds you rocking the babe. His eyes reflect your hollow-cheeked exhaustion. We'll call you Marcus, you decide, a strong name. 3 streets over, another newborn wails. The city teems with Marcuses, a cheap defense against early graves. Your sister's milk comes in with the next dawn, another small mercy. The baby latches like a veteran gladiator. You watch them, this bloodied tangle of survival. Somewhere beyond the city walls, your brother marches. Somewhere above, indifferent gods tally their ledgers. The wolf tooth amulet lies forgotten under the bed, next to a broken comb and dead spider. You kick it further into shadows where superstitions belong. Sunlight shatters against marble benches. Your sandaled feet stick to spilled wine as the Colosseum's roar vibrates your ribs. Little Marcus squirms on your lap, 5 years old and obsessed with soldier games. His sandal kicks your thigh as vendors hawk roasted dormice, 5 asses a skewer, or 3 if you'll eat the burnt ones. The sand below glitters unnaturally. Slaves raked crushed mica into the arena at dawn. A herald's trumpet blares. Your nephew claps hands over ears, just as the first gladiators stride forth. Myrmillo versus Thracian. The crowd chants bets like libations to a thirsty god. Marcus tugs your tunic. Why's that man got fish on his helmet? It's a mormorus, you lie, squinting at the Myrmillo's bronze visor. Historians still argue whether those aquatic motifs honored Neptune or just looked intimidating, drenched in blood. Your sister loaned you her best cloak for this cultural outing. Its wool itches like a guilty conscience. Trumpets screech again. Iron greaves clank as combatants circle. The Thracian's crescent-bladed Sika dances, a butcher's flourish meant to terrify. You pull Marcus closer, catching the stench of sweat-mixed rosewater from the row behind. Patrician women wave palm fronds, their perfume making your empty stomach twist. First blood comes fast. A murmillo's net tangles around the Thracian's ankle. Sand drinks the crimson spill. Marcus gasps as the fallen gladiator's visor pops loose. His missing front tooth makes him look 17, maybe younger. The crowd hollers Iugula. But you whisper, cover your eyes over your nephew's head. A man beside you chews garlic-laced sausage while lecturing his sons. Watch how he angles the dagger, go for the armpit, not the ribs. His toga has genuine purple trim, enough wealth to buy front row tickets, and a vomit bucket. The victor raises his trident, 3 prongs gleaming like accusation. You've heard rumors of fighters rubbing adrenaline-soaked sponges into wounds, pain buried under glory's roar. Marcus peers through your fingers. Was that man crying if he won? You offer a honeyed fig, the last from your sister's pantry. Dead fighters get dragged off with hooks, their blood trails spelling names in the sand. An attendant tosses handfuls of sawdust, nature's inkblot test for the morbidly inclined. The next match features Andabadi, ridiculous helmeted fighters everyone knows are half-blind slaves. Their flailing swords spark laughter instead of terror. A drunk senator vomits pearl onions onto the stairs. You steer Marcus toward the vomitorium as the crowd jeers. 2 slaves mop the mess with heraldic banners, Jupiter's eagles smeared with bile. Your nephew finds a discarded betting token, its ivory surface still warm from some optimist's grip. You linger near the exit, less a moral stance than a burning need for airflow. Through the archway, vendors sell jars labeled genuine gladiator sweat beside lead curse tablets. One merchant winks, dangling a vial of murky liquid. Last drops from Spartacus, own lineage, cure for baldness or your coin back. The crowd erupts. Another body hits the sand. Marcus drops his fig stem. Can we see the lions now? Historians will later estimate 1 million animals slaughtered here, but you just shake your head. The sun dips. Long shadows stretch like skeletal fingers over the arena. Your sister's waiting at the apartment, her frown loosening when she sees Marcus unharmed. She sniffs your tunic. You reek of cheap wine and cheaper decisions. You don't mention the broken gladius shard hidden in your sash, a morbid souvenir for the boy. Night brings distant cheers as lanterns outline the Colosseum's curve. Marcus sleeps clutching his sword, a bread knife wrapped in rags. You scrub blood flecks from your sandal straps, wondering how the fighter's mothers bear it. Outside, a street poet croons about honor and empire, his lyre missing 2 strings. The moon rises, a pale spectator still bored by human theater. Somewhere below, slaves shovel soiled sand into carts. Somewhere above, vultures circle tomorrow's menu. You watch Marcus' chest rise and fall, his dreams mercifully free of hooks and honeyed bribes. Dawn cracks over parched fields, your sickle's edge catches the first light. Calloused palms sting from yesterday's blisters, already ripped open by the wooden handle. Wheat sways like taunting nobles, each golden stalk bowing, as if mocking your hunger. A scarab beetle clings to your forearm, its iridescent shell shimmering despite the dust. You flick it toward the irrigation ditch, the water's long since dried up. Septimus groans, 3 rows over his hunched silhouette, moving slower each season. They'll take 2/3 before noon, he rasps, spit dark, with last night's lentils. You count 5 tax collector litters on the horizon, purple-striped canopies flapping like vulture wings. Harvest law demands their cut before you even taste a kernel. The phallus creaks nearby, a Gaulish reaping cart only Lucius can afford. Its teeth devour whole rows while you hack single stems. Funny how progress skips the poor. Your blade snags on a stone, the chip in its edge deepening. 5 years since Gratius forged it. May his wit, finally rest. A girl's laughter cuts through wheat trussel, young Livia chasing locusts with a reed basket. She'll roast them in cumin if the collectors leave enough fuel. Your own stomach growls at the memory of last autumn's fig cakes now, a luxury for temples and fat equestrians. Suddenly hooves. Decimus rides up with papyrus scrolls, his white stallion trampling a ripe sheaf. Yield reports due by nones. He barks, chin trembling like overcooked custard. You glimpse the abacus, boy trailing him beads, clacking future starvation into reality. The sun climbs your tunic, pasted to spine with sweat and chaff. Septimus collapses against a withered olive tree, his breath whistling through missing teeth. You share your canteen vinegar water that burns worse than thirst. He nods toward the horizon. They're early. Tax men arrive in linen breeches, spotless despite the dust storm. One sniffs your haul. Mold in the western quadrant, 20% deduction. His scribe scribbles without looking up. You clench your sickle, then spot the legionary leaning on his pilum nearby. Livia offers the head collector a locust skewer, charred legs curled like claws. He flicks it into the dirt. Insect diets are for Britons. His ringed hand grabs a sheaf, your daughter's fingers nearly crushed beneath it. The ledger shows 3/4, confiscated, a penalty for suspect measures. You mutter the ancient rhyme against greedy men, words grandmother swore made their bowels clench. The collector smirks, save folk magic for Saturnalia. By dusk, your portion fits in a single amphora, weevil-riddled grains that crunch like gravel. Historians still argue whether the palm width sickle design aided efficiency, or just let taxmen verify cuts easier. Livia chews raw kernels, spitting husks into the cooking fire's ashes. A distant cheer carries from the villa. Slaves say the master received Iberian pears today. You count 11 waves of laughter before the smoke shifts. Septimus coughs. Remember Calpurnius swore he'd burn their granaries. They fed him to those new Nile crocodiles, You finish stirring the gruel with a splintered spoon. The fire pops, embers land near Decimus' discarded scroll. You let them burn. Night falls hard, the remaining wheat hidden beneath false floorboards. Hunger gnaws your ribs, sharper than the sickle's bite. Frost creeps across fields, killing what little the tacksman left standing. Livia curls against your side, her breath warm against your shaking hands. Somewhere, a wolf howls. You count its cries instead of stars. Jasmine garlands hang limp around your neck, their sweetness clashing with lamplight smoke. The bed creaks as your new husband belches, garum undertones mixing with wine on his breath. His signet ring digs into your hip, a boar carved in carnelian, marking some long-forgotten ancestor's glory. You count 37 ceiling tiles before he speaks. The dowry included 6 goats. Yes. His sandal taps the mosaic floor, Bacchus mid-dance, beneath grapevines. A moth dies in the oil lamp, its wings curling into ash. Outside, the feasting crowd still chants their off-key paeans to Juno soaking through mud brick walls. He adjusts his amethyst bracelet, rumored to prevent drunkenness, though his slurred words suggest otherwise. Your mother swore these stones could reveal poison in wine, not that it matters now. The marriage contract binds your father's debts to his grain shipments, a plebeian patrician handshake sealed with your maidenhead. His fingers fumble at your stola's clasp, the linen still stiff from yesterday's dying vat. You focus on the wall fresco, a badly painted peacock with too many eyes. Fresco layers crack faster than vows. The artist joked while painting it. Nobody laughed. A drunk uncle stumbles past the threshold, his vomit splattering the woolen curtain. Your groom barks a command in Greek, something about Thracian hounds and idiots. Slaves scurry to clean it, their bare feet silent on the packed earth floor. One glances up with a look you'll dissect for decades. He rolls atop you, the sagging mattress straw poking through thin bedding. His breath smells of the fish sauce mill his family owns, and the Senate seat he covets. You stare at the peacock's lopsided tail feathers, counting cobalt blue segments until his grunting stops. Cold air slithers through the window as he snores, chillier than the wedding procession through the forum. That morning, a street vendor tossed you salt cakes for luck, then demanded payment. Your mother wept into her saffron veil, a color she could only afford by selling her hair. Dawn leaches color from the room, gray light, revealing a wine stain shaped like Sicily. Historians still argue whether these rural political marriages ever sparked genuine affection, or just quieter resentments. You rise, wrapping yourself in a cloak lined with counterfeit Persian silk. A slave offers barley porridge, her gaze fixed on your bruised wrist. The kitchen gossip will reach the market by noon. You eat standing up, listening to your husband berate a servant over misplaced ledgers. His tunic's crooked belt suddenly seems the most tragic thing in Rome. The jasmine garlands blacken in the brazier, their funeral pyre scent masking cheaper incense. Somewhere, Beyond the latrine wall a donkey brays. You press the peacock's flaking wing pigment between thumb and forefinger. Blue dust sticking to sweat. Morning ritual demands you weave at the loom, a symbol of wifely virtue. The wool scratches your palms raw from yesterday's harvest labor. Your new mother-in-law inspects each stitch, her critique punctuated by fig seeds spat into a bronze bowl. At least he's not a soldier, she mutters, referencing the third husband she buried at Philippi. You hum noncommittally, eyes tracking a spider devouring a fly in the corner. The loom's rhythmic clack blends with her swallowtail brooch clinking against the loom. By evening, your fingers bleed, crimson droplets staining the wool. Your husband boasts to dinner guests about training you likening wives to unbroken horses. You slip henbane into his wine, not enough to kill just enough to make him see Minerva's owls in the chamber pot. Night falls again. He snores into your hair, a habit your father's contract never mentioned. The peacock's eyes glow in moonlight judging. You tear off a plaster feather, its grit clinging to your tongue like unspoken curses. Somewhere a nightingale sings. You count its trills instead of ceiling tiles. Your sandals kick up dust from the auction block's steps, the same powdery gray as the Tiber's drought-starved banks. A dealer loops irons around a girl's ankles, the clank drowning her murmur about Nubian sandstorms. Her placard lists textile skills in smudged vermilion, a lie thinner than the tunic clinging to her ribs. You adjust your counterfeit silk veil, its threads already unraveling. The auctioneer's crier hawks his wares, house-trained, mild temperament, Latin comprehension surpassing most senators. Historians still argue whether slave rebellions were weekly events or imperial propaganda. But today's crowd seems armed with more coins than caution. A Gaulish man flexes scarred biceps, showcasing whip marks as selling points. His shackled feet leave prints like cattle brands in the dirt. You sidestep a puddle of vomit, too much morning wine from the Syrian vendor's stall. Someone mentions a Germanic slave who memorized Vitruvius's architectural treatises and rebuilt his master's collapsed villa. The punchline: he remained chained to its front gate. Your coin purse weighs less than a sparrow's heart. The girl catches your stare, her chin trembling matches yours during the wedding procession. Iron hinges scream as cages open. A child's cough echoes, whooping and wet, while dealers haggle over lung capacity versus dental health. You smell unwashed hair and fierce sweat, and beneath it, the honey glaze coating roasted songbirds on nearby food carts. A patrician prods a slave's teeth with a stylus, checking for stains like a horse trader inspecting hooves. This one recited Homer during branding. The auctioneer chuckles, nudging a poet missing 2 fingers. Your husband's voice slices through the din, barking at a trader about unspoiled stock. The dealer presents a redhead from Britannia, her freckles dusted with chalk to hide pox scars. She mutters something in a tongue older than Rome, the syllables sharp as broken glass. You count 19 shackles in your sightline, each link polished brighter than a bride's bracelet. A toothless crone offers to read your future in spilled chickpeas, her own wrists ringed with old chain scars. The girl on the block mouths a plea. You pretend to inspect a nearby rug merchant's wares. Laughter erupts as a senator's son buys the Gaulish man, then immediately loses him in a dice game. The crowd parts for a veiled woman, wealth perfuming the air like rotting roses. Her bodyguard wears a torque snatched from a Dacian king's, corpse's gold tarnished by centuries and blood. Sunlight glints off the auctioneer's bald scalp, a sweating mirror. He drags the trembling girl forward by her rope collar. Starting bid, 2/3 the price of a decent mule. Your lungs tighten, the same sensation as weaving your wedding gown under your mother-in-law's scorn. The Britannian redhead spits at a bidder, earning a backhanded blow that splits her lip. Blood drips onto the auction block, mixing with decades of other stains. You recall the peacock fresco's flaking pigments, how easily beauty crumbles under pressure. Your husband returns reeking of lamb stew and entitlement. He eyes the girl's calloused hands. Could work your father's fields if the harvests worsen. The dealer beams, revealing a missing molar where a slave once landed a lucky punch. When the gavel falls, her chains transfer to a leatherworker's apprentice, his face still pocked from childhood fever. The girl trips on the blocks, edge her gasp, mirroring the nightingale's last song in your wedding chamber. You finger the henbane hidden in your belt pouch, its bitterness, a promise. As the crowd disperses, a one-eared slave sweeps the platform, his broom stirring up ancient dust. Someone's dropped a linen shift in the mud its once white fabric, now the color of guilt. You walk home past taverns overflowing, with buyers celebrating their bargains, while beneath your feet, the Via Sacra's stones remember older screams. Nightfall brings no relief. Iron clinks echo from nearby alleys, metallic lullabies for the newly owned. You scrub your palms, raw, but the auction's grime lingers like a senator's hollow promises. Through your window, the same stars that watched Carthage burn now blink indifferently. Chains outlast empires. The morning sun claws through your window like an overeager gladiator, heralding the one day even beggars get free bread. Triumphal parades demand witnesses, and Rome's appetite for spectacle outweighs its scorn for the poor. You jostle past bakers hawking laurel-wreathed loaves, their yeast tang undercut by the sewer's persistent rot. A street urchin offers front row peepholes, in the crowd his price 2 sesterces, and your left sandals buckle. Forged program scrolls flutter from vendor carts, their ink smearing fantasies of Ethiopian elephants and Persian flamethrowers. Historians still debate whether the procession's gold statues were solid or gilt-covered lead. But today's glare makes deceit irrelevant. Legionnaires shove you against a urine-stained wall, making way for Caesar's divine nostrils. Their breastplates stink of brudium, Olive oil, a polishing trick taught by enslaved armorers. Captured siege engines roll past, their wooden wheels cracking cobblestones laid by your great-grandfather's calloused hands. A sandal maker whispers how one chariot's gemstones are colored glass, its gilding just saffron paste that'll melt in the first rain. You glimpse the Dacian kings, children, their golden chains clinking in rhythm with the victory hymns. Their Tudor walks, unchained, mouthing what experts think might be Pythagorean geometry verses. Trumpets shred the air, a sound like eagles dying mid-swoop. The crowd surges forward, crushing your ribs against a weaver's body odor. Caesar's face floats past, powdered whiter than a plutocrat's tombstone. His smile reveals teeth, stumps brown as overcooked lentils. A cosmetician's failed attempt with ground oyster shells. The quadriga horses prance sideways, scenting blood beneath their rose-petal path. Prisoners, shackles chime a grim counterpoint to cithara strings. A captured Gaulish chieftain spits at the crowd, the globule landing on a Vestal virgin's shoulder. She continues waving mechanically, her piety as rehearsed as a Syrian puppet show. Someone yells that the emperor's purple cloak cost 3,000 murex, snails their lives, though merchants swear they bulk dyed it with fermented beetroot. Confetti rains down, papyrus scraps dyed with cabbage juice and crushed beetles. It sticks to sweat damp, necks masking the stench of 30,000 unwashed plebs. You catch a fragment of poetry. Rome's might stretches farther than a drunkard's promises. A half-naked slave boy scrambles for fallen coins, his back striped with fresh whip marks. The crowd cheers as ox carts creak under stolen Egyptian obelisks, their hieroglyphics now advertising a consul's vanity. A senator's litter nearly crushes your foot, its silk curtains reeking of myrrh and extortion deals. His daughter waves a peacock fan, its iridescent feathers plucked from birds your cousin once tended. You remember their dying shrieks, the same pitch as the slaves straining under the emperor's portable dining couch. Golden goblets wobble on its trays, each worth your neighborhood's annual bread supply. The procession's end brings liveried slaves tossing pickled plums into the crowd. You catch one, its vinegar bite masking the copper aftertaste of arena dust. A drunk legion veteran slurs that the last triumphal arch was built with stolen temple marble, then vomits into a sacred fountain. Priests pretend not to notice, their eyes glued to a dancing bear in chains. As shadows lengthen, street sweepers uncover lost sandals and blood-stained sashes. Children fight over a broken helmet, plume ignoring the placard that reads trophies of Numidia. You spot the emperor's face powder smeared on a milestone, its chalky residue outlasting the cheers. Palace slaves emerge to scrub the via sacra, their bristle brushes whispering secrets only cobblestones comprehend. Torches flicker to life, the smoke conjuring phantom legions in the dusk. A wine shop owner boasts of selling Caesar's favorite vintage, though you watched him water down the same amphory yesterday. Someone's pet marmoset steals your remaining coin, its furry fingers nimbler than the Senate's tax collectors. You walk home past bleeding sheep destined for victory feasts, their wool still matted with alpine snowmelt. A blacksmith's hammer rings, steady forging new manacles for tomorrow's auction. The moon rises, a sallow echo of the emperor's gilded chariot. Above the baths, fading laughter. Wolves howl beyond the city walls their hunger, outpacing even Rome's endless appetite. The oil lamp gutters, its wick swimming in grease from yesterday's sacrificial lamb. You press against the watchtower's cold stone, your spear's iron head already speckled with quicklime patina. Beyond the Oryncinian wall, wolves harmonize with the wind, a lullaby for fools guarding an empire's fraying edges. Garlic hangs around your neck in a linen pouch, a plebeian superstition against evil spirits. Historians will later debate whether night watch chants were work songs or half-remembered hymns to Vulcan. Right now, you're more concerned with the shadow slinking past the granary. A fellow guard's sandal squeaks 2 ramparts over the password tonight is Persephone's left molar. You mouth the phrase sour as unwatered vinegar wine. Moonlight glints on something below, a rat gnawing discarded armor straps or a Dacian dagger. Your thumb rubs the spear's haft, the wood worn smooth by generations of sweaty palms. The scent of burning, bare fat wafts from the lamp. Someone skimped on olive oil again. A drunk senator stumbles from a brothel, his vomit arcs like a poorly aimed ballista shot. 3 hooded figures dart across the Cardo Maximus, their silhouettes swallowed by a baker's unshuttered doorway. You count heartbeats, no screams follow. Just the creak of a water wheel pumping sewage into the Tiber. A shrill laugh pierces the dark, too high for a human throat. Foxes, maybe, or the Larry's Augusti playing tricks. Your garlic pouch feels lighter than it did at sundown. The hourglass whispers secrets. The third watch is legionary torture by sand. You unwrap a wedge of cheese mold blooms blue as Egyptian faience. Biting down, you taste damp cellar walls and the ghost of last summer's goat milk. Armor clangs in the barracks yard. A recruit drops his scutum. The Optio's whip cracks, a sound familiar as your own wheezing cough. Someone's grinding flour prematurely, either an overeager baker or a Teuton spy signaling cohorts. Clouds swallow the moon. Your lamp becomes a drowning firefly. The wall's rough-hewn blocks dig into your spine. You're pretty sure Trajan's engineers skimped on mortar here. That'll outlive us all, a rough draft, chiseled by underpaid masons. A flash of movement near the apiary gate. Could be a cape, could be a banner. The wind shifts, carrying the sweetness of honey cakes from the Aventine slopes. Your empty stomach growls a treasonous critique of imperial pay scales. Distant iron hinges scream, the temple of Vesta's doors closing. Or the Puteoli salt vaults being raided. You squint, torches bob like drunk, fireflies near the Circus Maximus. Odds are 50-50 between a reveler's parade and a slave revolt. Something cold brushes your neck, you spin, spear leveled. Just a bat fleeing the belfry, its wings trailing cobwebs as delicate as murex dye. A scream rips through the vegetable market, high, sharp, then smothered. You grip your haste tighter, the wood's old splinters pricking your palm. 2 streets over, a dog howls, the wolves beyond the walls answer. Crickets fall silent, the world holds its breath. Then, a donkey brays that familiar hee-hawing chaos. Laughter bubbles up your throat, stifled into a snort. The commander hates undignified noises. You imagine explaining how a mule outwitted your battle reflexes. Dew seeps through your tunic, the damp chill of impending dawn. Or is it rain? Priests claim Mercury weeps whenever a general breaks treaty. But that's probably just the leaky aqueduct again. Oil sputters in the lamp. The flame gasps its last breath. You fumble for the spare wick, your fingers brush a mouse-nibbled scroll fragment. Repel barbarians, it says. Helpful. The eastern sky pales, streaks of blood orange smeared across clay roof tiles. Wolves retreat for now. You count 7 missing cobblestones in your section, each hole a potential sprained ankle. Temple bells drudge the city awake, their bronze tongues heavy with ritual. A blacksmith hammers a sword into a plowshare, or maybe just fixes a chariot axle. Dawn's first rays hit the column of Marcus Aurelius, its marble carvings preaching wars you can't afford to care about. Your relief arrives late, a red-eyed recruit smelling of pickled cabbage and bad decisions. You murmur Persephone's left molar. He croaks Bacchus's hemorrhoid through garlic breath. Close enough. As you trudge home, the bathhouse's furnace roars to life, its flames devouring yesterday's laurel wreaths and wine dregs. A street sweeper nods. You both know the real night watch never ends. Dawn's honeyed light slants through the workshop's grime-caked windows, your knuckles already dusted with clay, before the sun fully crests the 7 hills. The kiln exhales its ashen breath, a haze settling over rows of identical amphorae waiting to be filled with garum fish sauce. Your thumbs press into cold earth, shaping curves weaker artists might call perfect. 37 jugs today, 38 if the overseer doesn't catch you sneaking a sip of well water. Your stool groans, its legs worn shorter on one side from centuries of tilting potters. Someone's etched, Clemens made me. Into the workbench Clemens died 3 summers back during the lead smelter riots. A glob of slip splatters your tunic. The slurry clings like a second skin. Across the room, old Sergius coughs wetly into his elbow, each hack rattling the shelf of drying oil lamps. You mimic his phlegmy rhythm 4 beats. Pause, 3 beats. The foreman glares, his whip coiled like a sleeping asp. The kickwheel creaks, its wooden axle protesting as you spin another lump of clay. Archaeologists will later gush over Terra Sigillata's iconic red gloss. They won't mention The lung rot from breathing kiln fumes 12 hours daily. Your fingernail nicks the rim. A hairline fracture means half rations tonight. Symmetrical or starve, mutters the potter to your left, her hands moving faster than a vestal, tending sacred flames. You smash the defective vessel, clay shards skittering toward a mouse nibbling dried fig pits. Noon brings a bread break, stale loaves flecked with weevils that crunch like underestimated spices. The quarry slaves got first pick again, their dust-coated cheeks proof that hierarchy follows you even to the latrine. Someone jokes about sculpting a phallus-shaped urn, just needs your mother's likeness. Laughter dies when the foreman's shadow darkens the doorway. Kiln duty rotates to you, the infernos roar, drowning the workshop's usual clatter. Your tunic sticks to sweat-slicked skin as you stack greenware vessels. A grime-blackened brick bears faded graffiti. Vulcan, spare this batch, signed, a man who can't afford another whipping. Historians still argue whether Roman kilns used thermometers or just decades of burnt eyebrows. The fire's heartbeat pulses against your face, each wave of heat warping time itself. 348 pots today, or was it yesterday? Your inked tally marks blur like drunken centurions staggering home. Across the workshop, a new apprentice burns her forearm. The sizzle draws no glances. Pains as common here as red clay. Dusk arrives, a mercy veiled in smoke. You rub linseed oil into cracked fingertips, the stench masking the workshop's ever-present tang of damp earth. The foreman inspects your stack, hisses at a lopsided jug. His stylus scrapes wax tablet another deducted denarius. Lanterns flicker on their light, catching the ghostly imprints of 100 potters, fingertips in the ceiling beams. You press your thumb into fresh clay, leaving a world signature no one will admire. Somewhere beyond these walls, senators sip from silver goblets. But here, artistry means surviving till Saturnalia. The night shift arrives, their faces smudged with exhaustion from secondary jobs, hauling bricks or scrubbing latrines. You step into cool evening air, lungs grateful for anything besides kiln ash. A donkey cart clatters past, its cargo of shattered ceramics glinting like a mosaic of failures. Home beckons, a rented room above a dyer's shop where indigo vats perfume dreams blue. You collapse onto a pallet stuffed with dried mallow, leaves their rustle mimicking the workshop's endless spinning wheels. Blisters pulse in time with distant tavern music, a percussive reminder that tomorrow's clay already waits, impatient as a legion on march. Marble corridors swallow your footsteps, your sandals still reeking of the dyer's indigo vats from yesterday's shift. The senator's scroll presses against your ribs, its wax seal colder than a banker's smile. You pass a fresco of Romulus and Remus, their wolf-nursed figures flaking like the Republic's ideals. A Praetorian guardsman eyes your patched tunic, his scowl softening when you flash the senator's seal ring. Inside the Curia Julia, Echoes bounce like wasps, each politician's plea for tax reforms drowned by heckles. Honorable members, begins one toga-clad fossil, his voice cracking on honorable. You weave through back corridors, the ones slaves used to avoid obstructing greatness. Lepidus's secretary intercepts you, a walking quill, with ink-stained nostrils. He snaps the scroll from your hands, his thumbnail breaking the imperial purple seal. Late, he hisses, flecks of spittle landing on Caesar's engraved profile. The main chamber's door creaks open, releasing a wave of heated debate about grain subsidies. Murmurs swirl about Parthian threats, and a certain consul's inappropriate affinity for Nubian lyre players. Mosaics underfoot depict military victories, their gold tiles pried up decades ago to pay for barbarian bribes. You glimpse the senator, your employer, nodding gravely as a rival compares tax collectors to cicadas. His hands stay folded, the picture of restraint. Only you notice his left sandal tapping Morse code fast against the dais. A slave boy offers honeyed dates. Senators pop them like bribed jurors swallowing lies. The secretary returns, thrusting a new scroll at you. Its parchment feels heavier wrong. To the governor of Hispania, he barks, already turning away. You resist mentioning the splotched ink near the address, the kind caused by hurried rewrites, en route to the archives. You pass a shaded alcove, two questers huddled over a dice game. Claudius wrote his histories on 10-foot scrolls. One laughs, tossing ivory cubes, unfurled them mid-speech to confuse opponents. Historians still argue whether officials routinely altered state documents, but your fingers know the stickiness of reheated wax. Sunlight assaults you in the forum, its heat intensifying the stench of Senate ink and donkey dung. You grip the scroll tighter, aware it likely condemns some distant cousin to exile, or worse. A passing poet mutters verses about the rot beneath the laurel wreaths, his pupils dilated from Egyptian poppy syrup. Step shadows stretch long when you return, the Senate's doors now barred for private consultations. The secretary's empty desk overflows with broken styluses. You pocket a discarded seal press, its eagle emblem blurred from years of stamping half-truths. Homeward path takes you past the rostra, its once bloodied stones now hosting a silk merchant's stall. You spot your senator's litter departing through a side gate, curtains drawn against plebeian glances. His wife's laughter floats out sharp as a gladius thrust. You finger the stolen seal press, its weight a silent promise. Nightfall finds you back in your indigo-stained room, the scroll's contents still burning your thoughts. A rat gnaws on mallow leaves, its eyes reflecting lamplight like tiny copper coins. You unroll scrap parchment, dipping a reed pen in diluted wine. Practice makes passable forgeries, and hunger makes excellent teachers. Distant bells announce the 9th hour. Your blistered hands remember tomorrow's clay. But tonight, you trace the Senate's eagle emblem onto your arm, its wings warped by candle flicker, somewhere beyond Rome's walls. A governor reads words you delivered, while shadows rewrite what history preserves. Your daughter's forehead burns like a blacksmith's forge. Each labored breath rattles her tiny chest. You crush willow-bark into a clay cup, the same bitter remedy Galen prescribed for Emperor Marcus's migraines. Moonlight slices through cracked shutters, illuminating the amulet of dried frog legs hanging above her pallet, a cure from Alexandria's markets. The vendor swore, its stench now mingling with sour sweat. 3 nights since the fever struck, since she stopped recognizing your indigo-stained hands. You dribble honeyed water across parched lips. Most trickles down her chin like tears. Neighbors warned about the midsummer vapors, that miasma creeping from the Tiber's mudflats. Historians still argue whether Romans understood germ theory, but you've seen specters in the night mists, the oil lamp gutters, casting long shadows that twist into hook-beaked Stymphalian birds. You whisper Orpheus's hymns, half-remembered verses from temple rites attended decades ago. A clay bowl shatters in the courtyard, startling you into spilling the last precious drops of Assyrian myrrh. Dispater, spare her, you mutter, fingering the rusty nail hidden in your belt. Wise women claim iron repels underworld fiends, yet the air thickens with river reek. Sleep ambushes you mid-prayer, your cheek slamming against the damp pallet. Suddenly, you're knee-deep in the Acheron, its black currents tugging at your tunic. Charon's face shifts between your brother's sun-bleached skull and the senator's sneer. 2 obols, he croaks, bargaining even here. You empty your pouch, offering rat-gnawed bread crusts and the stolen seal press. His laugh sounds like crow wings. Poor fare for a soul's passage. The fairy rocks, water revealing faces of children you played with gone during the last plague. You clutch his oar, blisters bursting as you plead, take my years instead. Mortals always trade what isn't theirs to give. He gestures upstream, where your daughter's shadow wades toward a lightless shore. You lun, waking to her choked whimper. Dawn stains the room bloody. Her skin now glistens with unnatural heat. A snail trail of saliva darkening the wool blanket. You fumble for the willow-bark tea, cold as a tomb slab. Historians will later praise Roman medical advancements, never mentioning the clay doll's mothers buried with curse tablets. A priestess appears at midday, her saffron veil reeking of sanctimony. She pockets your only silver denarius, smearing lamb's blood across the threshold. The gods heed proper sacrifice, she intones, while your daughter's fingernails turn blue-gray. You press the garlic amulet to her chest, recalling the silk merchant's claim. It repelled Moorish demons. By dusk, her breathing sinks with the Death Watch beetles tapping in the walls. You crush juniper berries, their resin clinging like guilty secrets. The dream returns as you slump forward, Charon now wearing your father's weathered face. A trade, he offers, extending a hand, sprouting grave moss. 10 harvests from your span for her 70. You grasp his icy fingers and jolt awake to muffled shouts outside. The tea overflows, dousing the lamplight. In darkness, you count her faint heartbeats, each flutter a defiance of scrolls and emperors. The amulet crumbles, releasing a century of trapped screams. Somewhere beyond the veil, an oar dips into silent water. Flame-colored silks snap in the wind. A merchant unrolls bolts finer than spiderwebs across his forearm. You pause mid-errand, hypnotized by fabrics dyed with Tyrian purple, a hue costing more than your tenement. Camel bells jingle as traders argue in fractured Latin, their teeth stained beetle nut red from eastern roads. Behold Nubian ivory. A hawker thrusts carved elephants at your chest, their tusks still reeking of savanna dust. You recoil, memory flashing to legionnaires' tailies of pyramid-sized beasts trumpeting in Kush. Historians still argue whether Roman generals ever rode war elephants. But this stench needs no scroll to confirm. A Sasanian merchant scoops pearls from lead glass jars, each orb glowing like miniature moons. From the Erythraean Sea, he croons, the name tasting of salt and Ptolemaic maps. Your calloused fingertips brush one perfect sphere, cold against summer sweat. His smile vanishes. He covers the jar with a bolt of Bactrian wool. Interested in rarer wares, a Syrian trader parts his cloak, revealing jade figurines carved with Han Dynasty precision. Their price, 300 denarii, equals 5 years of your brickmaking wages. The stone's green depths mock your grime-caked nails. You escape into the crowd, nearly tripping over a caged parrot, squawking Parthian obscenities. Its owner laughs, gold rings glinting as he tosses it a date. Learned that from caravanserai guards. Some scholars claim parrots reached Rome as living table ornaments. Others say they were bookmarkers for wealthy senators. Spices prickle your nostrils, cassia and pepper piled in saffron-dyed sacks. A bored guardsman picks his teeth with a myrrh twig, ignoring the Armenian boy pocketing dried apricots. You spot Chinese silk floss wrapped in bamboo paper, its sheen rivaling the Capitoline Venus. Merchants whisper of seers, tribesmen harvesting it from magical trees, not knowing about silk moths, cocoons. A Kushan wrestler barrels past, his leopard skin cape brushing your shoulder. Bronze coins spill from his belt purse imprinted with Emperor Hadrian's profile, already worn smooth. You kick one cursed aureus under a date cart, its metallic clink drowned by a water seller's cry. Sticklac resin for sealing those love letters. An Indian woman waves vermilion-stained fingers, her grin revealing teeth inlaid with lapis. You remember patching roof tiles with cheaper beeswax. And Livia's laughter when your sealed poetry melted in midsummer heat. The caravan master's horn blares, a sick bull's final wheeze. Traders hurriedly pack Babylonian glassware and Gangetic nard. You glimpse a Sogdian dancer's bare feet, calluses telling of mountain passes no Roman boot ever trod. Her anklet bells fade westward, taking with them fantasies of steppe winds and jade palaces. As dusk purples the market square, you pocket a single fallen peppercorn. Its earthy fire lingers on your tongue during the mile-long trudge home. The figurine merchant's words echo with each step. 300 coins could buy your daughter's future. But tonight's meal is millet porridge, and dreams cost nothing but sleep. You kneel in a back room thick with crushed violets, their sweetness battling older stenches sewn into linen. Bronze basins overflow with stains that outlive empires, wine-dark splotches, rusty smears, yellowed patches you refuse to name. A Gallic girl hums off-key while wringing sheets, her rhythm sinking with coins clinking through wall cracks. Faster. The madam's wig tilts, Egyptian curls framing cheeks, painted with lead white and saffron. Her snap sparks memories of brickmaking foreman different tyranny. Same whip-sharp tone. You dunk another bloodied cloth into vinegar and natron. Egyptian salt biting your hangnails. Historians still argue whether Rome's brothels relied more on enslaved souls or desperate freedwomen. But your blistered palms know the truth. Laughter explodes beyond the curtain. A soldier's slurred joke about Belgic beer and British rain. You scrub harder, wooden brush, scratching in time with creaking beds. 3 copper coins thud onto your workstation. A client tosses them without looking. One rolls into a puddle. You let it sink. You girl. A Thracian barmaid shoves a sloshing amphora at you. Take this to room 7 and don't sip it. We're not idiots, no matter how you look at us. The wine reeks of honeyed corruption, pine, resin clinging to its edges. You navigate corridors papered with graffiti, crude poems, phallic carvings. A charcoal sketch of Nero fiddling over Pompeii's ashes. Room 7's occupant moans about Jupiter's thunder, which tonight means his limp member. You set the amphora down, pausing at an ivory figurine on the windowsill. Its Minerva pose clashes with the room's peeled paint squalor. Backing away, your heel crushes a dried rose. Petals crackle like old bones. The courtyard well offers temporary refuge. Its bucket brings up water flecked with mortar dust. You gulp greedily, ignoring the drunk sprawled in the corner. His vomit splatters a mosaic of Leda, and her swan, the bird's ruby, I now crusted white. Hey, tender thing. A hand clamps your waist, fingers denting lanolin-smeared wool. Sour breath gusts your neck. How about a free taste for a weary protector of Rome? The soldier's grip outmatches his swaying legs. You freeze, his other hand fumbling at his belt. Across the courtyard, the madam watches, says nothing, keeps counting coins. You stomp his sandaled foot, he howls you bolt. But alleys here all loop back to the same dim doorways. His laughter pursues. Shouldn't tease a man with a blade, sweeting. Dawn finds you scrubbing again. The Thracian tosses a moldy bread crust your way. Eat. Can't have you fainting before the noon rush. You pocket it, wondering if your daughter's eating better at the brickmaster's house. A spider descends on silken thread, dancing above the suds. You blow gently, sending it spiraling toward freedom. 3 new stains arrive, ankle deep in the basin now. Some scholar once claimed brothel linens were washed in sacred Tiber water, but you know better. The well's grit clings to every thread. The drunk stumbles past, clutching a Syrian boy half his age. His glare promises later vengeance. You hum the Gallic girl's tune, fingers pruning as you scrub. Workers rotate in and out laughter, fading to whimpered prayers. A mouse nibbles your discarded crust, tail flicking as armored boots thunder by. When the watchman's lamp finally sputters, you count your earnings. 10 coppers minus the one lost to vinegar. Enough for half a sack of millet, or a honey cake if you dare. The madam blocks the exit. You'll finish those linens tonight. Her wig's now askew, revealing gray roots that match your own. You nod, knowing the well water hides sharp stones perfect for slicing wool or veins, but your daughter's face surfaces in the murk of tiny fists, clutching that damned peppercorn like an emperor's jewel. You kneel again, scrub again. The spider returns, webbing glinting, where moonlight pierces the roof cracks. Somewhere beyond these walls, a parrot shrieks obscenities learned from legionnaires or senators or scholars who'll never touch a brush thicker than a quill. You trace Latin verbs on a wax tablet, stylus trembling under the tutor's hawk-like gaze. Goose fat candles drip onto scarred desks, their smoke stinging, eyes already raw from memorizing Cicero's dry speeches. Across the room, a boy sneaks grubby thumbs over his mistakes, word endings smudged beyond recognition. Again, the tutor's cane taps your shoulder, a splintered warning. Ammo, amas, amat. You carve each letter deeper, praying the wooden pointer ignores your desk. Historians still argue whether plebeian children regularly attended schools like these. But your ink-stained tunic suggests inconvenient truths. A donkey brays outside, its owner cursing in Aramaic. You sneak a glance at the window, sunlight glinting off the baths of Trajan's distant dome. The cane cracks against your knuckles. Hot pain blooms, stylus clattering to floor tiles. Eyes here, maggot. Rome wasn't built by gawpers. The tutor spits a date pit into a bronze spittoon, his breath reeking of pickled anchovies. One pupil claims he was an army scribe in Dacia. Another swears he's failed playwright from Antioch. Both theories explain the cruelty. Lunch brings stale flatbread, shared 3 ways, your portion smaller, since father vanished with the legions. You nibble crusts fished from your sleeve, the wax tablets, honey coating lingering on chapped lips. Experts think schools added beeswax to deter hungry students, but hunger always wins. The afternoon brings geometry, a subject as foreign as Egyptian hieroglyphs. You sketch triangles in the wax, erasing errors with your thumbnail. A girl, too, rows back, weeps silently, her tablet displaying a perfect circle. The tutor drags her forward anyway, accusing her of using a compass, lazy as a Vestal's cat. He makes her lick the tablet clean. Your own tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth, thirstier than a senator's fish pond in August. Dust motes swirl where sunlight slices through shutters. You count them instead of listening. 19, 20, 21. A wasp drones near your ear. Its buzz sinks with the tutor's droning lecture on aqueduct gradients. Your head nods, smack. The cane catches your temple. Vision blurs. A copper tang floods your mouth. Dreaming of chariot races, gutter spawn. Calculate the slope again. The numbers swim 7, 12, your brother's age, when they took him for brickmaking. Dismissal comes with a scroll to copy, 20 lines of Virgil. The tutor pins it to your tunic like a general awarding medals. Fail this, and your mother pays double. Outside, street urchins pelt you with fig seeds, their laughter sharper than the cane's bite. Home is a rented closet near the Cloaca Maxima, its stench seeping through rags, stuffed in wall cracks. You light a stolen lamp nub, squinting at Virgil's cramped script. Mother won't return till moonrise. Brothel linens waiting like Sisyphus's boulder. A rat noses through millet sacks, your dinner for weeks now. You hiss at it. The beast stares back, unimpressed. Words blur. Armavarumk Kano, the ink smearing under a dripped tear. Some scholar once claimed school papyrus was coated in cow dung ash to prevent crying. A rumor proven false tonight. Midnight brings mother's footsteps, sluggish, as if wading through wet concrete. She peers at your work, calloused fingers brushing the parchment. Beautiful, she lies. Her sleeve slips, revealing a bruise shaped like a Praetorian's thumbprint. You blow out the lamp, pretending not to hear her rattling cough. The scroll pills, the rat gnaws, the cloaca gurgles. Tomorrow's verbs loom, ammo, amas, aim at. Love becomes a curse when whispered in the dark. Flames crackle, olive wood spitting embers into the pre-dawn gray. Your father's shroud smolders at the edges, linen curling like parchment in a scribe's fire. The funeral club members mutter prayers to Pluto, their cheap incense doing little to mask the pork fat reek of burning flesh. You toss salt over the pyre, a pinch stolen from the baths. Seasoning stand last week. Aunt Cassia wails 3 paces behind her professional mourner's wig, slipping over one eye. Historians still debate whether plebeians regularly hired such performers. But copper coins buy convincing grief these days. The pyre collapses, embers swirling upward like drunk fireflies. Someone's loaned funeral urn already chips at the base, guilt baked into its clay. You scoop hot bones with charred tongs, finger joints crumbling to ash before reaching the vessel. Experts think burial clubs reused urns between families, a thrift that would have made your father proud. A scream rips the smoky air. Young cousin Drusilla steps on a still glowing coal. Her mother slaps her silent, a parenting style as Roman as vinegary wine. You press the last bone fragment into place, molars fused into a grotesque grin. The priest drones on about ancestral spirits, his accent thicker than stale garum. You tune him out, counting mourners instead. Half have vanished already, off to open market stalls or gamble outside the baths. Only the debtors remain, hoping your father's ghost will absolve their loans. Dawn bleeds across the horizon, pink as a fresh bruise. You pocket a half-melted denarius from the pyre's edge, its face warped into a cyclops's leer. Quirky grave goods included everything from clay lamps to chicken bones. Though Karen's fee rarely survived the flames intact, a gust scatters ash across your tunic, the gray dust settling like premature aging. Aunt Cassia fakes wounds into a butcher's arms, his tunic sleeve already streaked with yesterday's lamb blood. You bite back laughter your father would have snorted at the theatrics. The priest thrusts a clay oil lamp into your hands, its wick drowned in cheap tallow. Light this each parentalia, he intones, then whispers. 2 asses extra if you want the long blessing. Your sandal grinds the coin in your pocket, silver wearing through leather like hope through vows. Crows descend their caws, drowning the priest's haggle. You fling a pebble missing by a mile. The lead bird snaps up a tendon your tongs missed, its prize dangling like a grotesque necklace. Mourners scatter eager to blame gods for their abrupt exit. Alone now, save the urn's heat seeping through your tunic. You kneel beside the pyre's skeleton, fingers sifting warm ash. A hairpin emerges, its bronze rose blackened. Mother wore these daily before the fever took her. Historians love debating grave offerings. None mention how the living scavenge memories from cinders. The sun climbs, its glare exposing shoddy pyre construction. Half the logs slipped sideways, your father's shinbone now wedged between 2 stones. You leave it, spirits don't need ankles where they're going. The ash-coated denarius warms your palm, an inheritance lighter than a sparrow's sigh. A dog trots past, sniffing the pyre with professional interest. You hiss through teeth, the mutt cocks its head, as if tallying your weaknesses. When it lunges for the marrow-stained dirt, you don't stop it. Let Hades sort out the thieves. Wind carries the last smoke westward, over rooftops still streaked with night's sweat. Somewhere beyond those tiles, your brother breathes gaulish ere your sister stirs yesterday's porridge. You press the hot urn to your chest, its hieroglyphic cracks spelling unfinished conversations. The street sweeper arrives, his broom already pushing ash toward the gutter. Move along, girl. His voice holds the gravel of a man who's cleared emperors and beggars alike. You stand urns slipping in your sweaty grip. One charred rose petal clings to your sandal, its fragrance long since surrendered to fire. You trudge past the sweeper, urn cradled like a stolen loaf, when sunlight glints off distant stone. The aqua Appia arches overhead, its belly full of snowmelt from mountains you've never seen. Your parched tongue remembers yesterday's well bucket, mud swirling at the bottom like a taunt. Engineers designed these waterways with marble lips and perfect slopes, meticulous enough to drain the Tiber itself. Yet your own cistern bakes empty, a clay mouth gaping at cloudless skies. Historians still argue whether public fountains prioritized patrician districts, but your cracked heels know the answer. A slave gang passes, shoulders raw from hauling pozzolana mortar. One collapses, his overseer jabs him awake with a fire-hardened stick. Up, the emperor wants arches, not corpses. You clutch your urn tighter, its ashes weighing less than a bureaucrat's promise. The Marcia aqueduct hums above water, chuckling through its lead veins. You glimpse moss clinging to vents, those stubborn green tongues surviving on spray and neglect. A patrician's daughter fills her pearl-encrusted cup upstream, her laughter skittering over the current. By the time it reaches your quarter, the flow's reduced to warm drips. Quirky tailies swirl about sacred eels in the Annio Novus, guardian spirits demanding honey cakes. You've never spotted scales in the public basins, just the occasional dead rat, bloated like a wineskin. A workman's chant echoes from scaffolded arches. One sestertius a day keeps the whip away. Your sandal cracks a dried lizard, its belly split open like a tiny leather purse. The foreman spots you loitering. Move, mourner, we're building immortality here. You duck beneath a weeping conduit, its steady plink-plunk sinking with your headache. A droplet lands on your wrist, precious enough to lick. Not all miracles require temples. Downhill, a baker's wife scrubs flour sacks where the aqueduct terminates. She'll sell that gray water as second-hand snow to desperate mothers tonight. Your alley well crouches in shadow, its rope frayed down to 3 pathetic strands. The bucket emerges empty again, just dust and a confused beetle. The Senate boasts 11 major aqueducts, 11. Yet your throat stays drier than a mummy's cough. A boy scooters past on a stolen roof tile, his bare feet kicking up ochre dust. They say Claudius pissed in the Aqua Claudia. His giggle fades around the corner, taking the joke's truth with it. At the public fountain, a queue of women clutch amphorae, their eyes tracking each other's pour. The attendant naps his ledger book, open to a half-drawn phallus. You crouch to catch overflow. 5 drops kiss your palm before he wakes swinging. Sunset stains the aqueduct's blood red, slave graffiti rippling across their underbelly. Crude faces, numbers, a chiseled outline of Priapus missing his attributes. You trace the vandalism, the hasty lines vibrating with generations of spite. Even marble can't outrun the masses, itch to leave marks. Night brings the water inspector, lantern swinging like a pendulum. He tests the flow with a bronze gauge tisking at algal blooms. Your shadow watches from behind a column, learning which coins make bureaucrats bless polluted streams. Home again, your urn sits beside the bone-dry water jar. Dawn will find you hauling buckets from the Tiber, its sluggish filth, a far cry from alpine springs. As stars blink above the arcades, you imagine drinking moonlight straight from those cold mountain stones. No senators, daughter sipping first. The procession emerges at dusk, linen veils glowing in torchlight. 30 years since your sister took the vow, yet her spine still curves like that final family bow. You press against a butcher's stall, garlic sausages masking your scent. The lead vestal's sistrum clinks, its bronze loops imitating crickets, or mocking them. Every 6 years, they groom a new guardian for Vesta's flame, daughters of senatorial families, supposedly. You remember the recruiter's lie. Your third girl's plain enough for divine service. Mother's tear salt stung your cheek during the farewell hers or yours. Their flame-tending robes weigh 20 pounds. Historians tally such trivia while ignoring the wrist bruises from carrying firewood. One priestess stumbles her sandal, snagging on a loose Tiber cobble. The crowd gasps. A vestal tripping means bad omens, or maybe bad shoemakers. They pass carrying silver pottery, offerings to ward off sewer demons. You glimpse your sister's chin under her veil, the same cleft your toddler once poked with sticky fingers. Forbidden to speak her birth name now, just Virgo Maxima or Flamekeeper. You practice the old nickname in your head, Luterna, 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 until it becomes a prayer. The temple of Vesta looms ahead, its circular walls mimicking ancient roundhouses. A novice fans the eternal fire with peacock feathers. Scholars debate whether the sacred ash was used in birth potions, but you watched mother sneak some into your feverish brother's broth. He survived. She called it piety, you called it theft. They say Vestals brew moonlight into their ritual wine, using glowworm mucus for a phosphorescent shimmer. The drunk who told you that now mucks stables, but you squint at their chalices anyway. No glow, just cheap Campanian red, probably. The temple door creaks, 30 years since it swallowed your sister. You see O-U-N-T, Chinese letter, 12 heartbeats before it clangs shut, the sound final as a coffin nail. 3 decades, tending a fire that never warms her. 3 decades of your mother's shrine whispers. If only she'd married the fishmonger. A priestess drops her veil, scandal rippling through the crowd. She's facing punishment for exposing her hair, or maybe just a breeze. Historians still argue whether the Vestals influenced elections through flame divination. You bet they did. Your sister could spin gossip into gospel before she turned 10. Night swallows the last saffron hymn. You kick an offering bowl, its copper coins scattering. Let them find their own damn money. The fire's glow seeps through temple slats, casting clawed shadows on your outstretched hand. Homeward, you pass the Collegium Pontificum, their scribbles about sacred femininity, plastered over tavern ads. A drunk vomits by the Cloaca Maxima. His retching sinks with the sewer's gurgle. You wonder if Vestals ever peeked at the stars and cursed their own constellations. Dawn finds you scrubbing laundry near the temple drains. A novice empties holy water into the gutter. It swirls with yesterday's ashes. You plunge a stained tunic into the gray swirl fingers, numbing as you whisper to the runoff. One message reaches the Tiber. Maybe. Your knees grind against cobblestones. The breadline snakes past Tiber's stink since midnight. Rancid flour clings like a second skin, cheaper than perfume, heavier than chains. 385 steps to the grain carts. You counted them, during last week's 3-hour shuffle. The Cura Annani feeds Rome's masses, 5 free modii per citizen monthly. Historians love that tidy number. They never mention the weevils. A baker's apprentice kicks spilled millet, his toenail poking through sandals. Blame the Cyrene shipments, he barks. You side-eye the sacks, Palermo wheat cut with chalk dust. They say Nero's engineers once floated grain on rafts of incense to mask mold with frankincense. Today's ration just smells like defeat and old socks. Sunlight pierces the Porta Trigemina arch. A century-old rusted hinge screams. The queue tenses as guards unlock the granary. Someone coughs, a wet hack that starts 40 others. Your tunic chafes, where sweat meets flour, paste third skin peel this week. Front row regulars flash bronze tokens, thin as ambition. A clerk's stylus hovers over your cracked tile chip. Name Secundus Calventius of the Aventine. His tablet shows 5 smudged checkmarks only, 4 sacks, issued this month. You bite your tongue. Tomorrow's protest might cost teeth. A matron ahead crumples, her empty basket rolling into a senator's litter. Purple silk, curtains twitch. Historians still argue whether grain doles prevented riots or trained plebs to beg. Right now, you'd sell both answers for an extra fig. The cart's wooden slats creak under stolen Egyptian gold, 60 million sesterces yearly to keep mobs docile. Your sack hits bony shoulders with a hollow thud. One kernel escapes. It bounces toward a gutter. Your lunge sparks a domino stumble. Thief, shouts a one-eyed oil seller. Elbows jab ribs, the crowd surges like boiling gruel. A guard's vine staff cracks someone's skull, the metallic tang mixing with spilled flour. You press the sack to your chest, human shield against hungry hands. Someone yanks your hair. A child wails. Through legs, you spot the dropped grain bursting, white dust floating over cobbles. 74 breaths pass before the brawl exhausts itself. The clerk resumes weighing portions, as if 74 heartbeats of chaos never happened. You limp past a fresco of Ceres, her stone eyes judging your shriveled haul. Homeward through alleys where bakeries mock with fresh-baked air, a rat noses your spilled kernels, even it hesitates at the chalk aftertaste. Your daughter meets you at the tenement, her arms pink from scrubbing patrician vomit. She portions the grain into 7 bowls minus tomorrow's tax bribe. The hearth fire licks a pot of bran water soup. You sprinkle 2 precious peppercorns, a luxury stolen during the riot. Moonrise brings the landlord's knock, his palm upturned calloused from counting coins. You surrender tomorrow's bread before tasting it. The screams of distant dumpster divers echo as you lick the empty sack, wondering if Vesta's flame ever flickered this hungrily. Your daughter shakes you awake, her fingers sticky from honey cakes you can't afford. They crowned the terracotta king. Saturnalia's first dawn paints the tenement in reckless red. Outside, a senator's cook tosses garlands at slaves. Role reversals a delicate dance. Masters play at servitude, like cats batting half-dead mice. The Aventine slopes buzz with sigillaria vendors. You barter a chipped jug for a fired clay monarch. His tiny hand holds a scroll. Command 1. Feed the master grapes until he belches. Historians tally 5 days of sanctioned chaos, your landlord mutters, through 3 watered-down mead servings. Another cup, Dominus, you ask, tilting the jug like a conqueror. His forced laugh smells of stale oysters. Threadbare tunics become togas via bedsheet theft. You drape yours unevenly, parodying Praetorian pomp. A drunk smith staggers past, wearing his wife's saffron shawl. The Saturnalia king decrees urgent naps. He slurs. Even laughter tires quickly, like bread rising too fast. You join the procession to Minerva's temple. Slaves haul a wool-stuffed Jupiter effigy. Its lopsided nose mocks real divine statues, those with gemstone eyes and handmaidens. The priestess distributes spiced wine, a cheeky libation splashed on beggars' feet. Traditional? No. The clay king's face cracks approvingly. Midday brings the feast. Your platter holds actual cheese, pilfered during the landlord's servitude. His wife dropped 6 grapes, you pocketed 3. Beneath table, your daughter grins, her cheeks stuffed like a conspirator squirrel. A historian's footnote. Wealthier households used separate dishes for slave and master delicacies. You bite the gilded fig first, because defiance tastes better than approval. Candles flicker as dusk erases hierarchies. The clay king's next decree. Kiss the cook's mule. Groans erupt, festive duty calls. You lead the bristly-lipped beast past tenement stalls. Some say mules symbolized humility, others think drunk patricians just liked animal gags. A silk trader's son stumbles into your path, crowned with dried laurels. I'll buy your breath, he slurs, waving a copper as you pocket it, exhaling dramatically. He collapses, giggling. Saturnalian commerce, the only fair trade Rome knows. By midnight, the streets reek of vomit and cinnamon. Your daughter plants the broken terracotta king in an empty amphora. Let him rule the mice. Historians still argue whether these revelries eased class tensions or rehearsed revolution. You're too busy stealing back your grapes from the landlord's pantry to care. Dawn creeps like a chastised cat. The clay shards poke your palm, one last command unread. You smash it instead. Normalcy returns with a hungover vengeance. The landlord demands rent. Your daughter's hands crack, scrubbing again. And somewhere, a real king statue gets its gemstone eyes peeled clean. Dawn stains the Tiber red as you kneel in brick dust, knees grinding into pulverized limestone. The foreman barks ratios. 1 part volcanic ash, 2 parts crushed terracotta, water hauled from a well 3 streets away. Your shovel scrapes the mixing pit. Paste coats your arms like second skin. Historians will later marvel at this concrete's durability. They'll never name the cough it plants in your chest. Faster, the overseer flicks his Vitus rod. The grapevine switch leaves welts, not blood. You press clay into wooden molds, thumbs smoothing edges cracked by haste. Each brick bears your fingerprint centuries from now. Tourists will call these grooves ancient artisan marks. You call them proof you existed. The kiln's maw devours your day's work, 12 hours fired into permanence. Heat blisters your neck as you stack bricks onto ox carts. One slab slips, shattering against your shin. The overseer deducts its cost from your wheat ration. Your stomach groans a familiar chorus. Lunch is a joke only hunger understands. Mold-speckled bread beside a puddle, pretending to be soup. You trade a raisin for Talus's olive pit, sucking the residual salt like a senator's feast. The Colosseum looms half-finished across the way, its arches swallowing your bricks by the thousand. Grandeur climbs skyward as your hands crumble. A new conscript vomits into the clay pit, some merchant's bankrupt son reduced to wage labor. You whisper the mantra every mixer learns. Water first, then ash, unless you want mortar that bites. He retches again. The foreman's whip corrects his posture. Dusk brings the brickyard's final cruelty, tipping the kiln. You scrape cooled bricks with wire brushes, releasing silica ghosts into your lungs. The girl beside you hums a Gallic lullaby. Her toddler sits with the widows, sorting pebbles from lentils. You count breaths between her coughs. Moonrise finds you needing tomorrow's batch, the 14th this month. Blisters split, weeping onto the slurry. A scholar once argued that 380,000 bricks built the Flavian amphitheater. He forgot to tally the blood binding them. You pocket a jagged brick fragment, the 8th this week. Historians still argue whether workers received wages or whippings. Your coin purse, lighter than a sparrow's heart, sways as you limp home. Campfires dot the Subura's alleys. Your daughter boils turnips with hands redder than dawn. She eyes your latest treasure. For the collection, you nod, adding the shard to a growing pile, your immortality cemented in rubble. Sleep comes hard and thin. Tomorrow's kiln yawns in your dreams. In the distance, marble cladding smothers another brick. Salt crusts your lips as the trireme lurches. Waves slam the hull like Neptune's hammer. Your wife clutches 2 sons and a daughter, their tears pooling with bilge water at your feet. Rome's shoreline shrinks to a charcoal smudge, then vanishes. Historians like Tacitus will record your crime as treasonous utterance. But you remember a drunk soldier mishearing a joke about Vespasian's tax on chamber pots. The captain tosses millet bread so stale it cracks teeth. Your youngest pockets hers to carve into a doll. Rain soaks through the sailcloth roof, a luxury upgrade costing your last silver denarius. You whisper the exiled's covert greeting learned in Ostia's ports. We tread where Jove's gaze falters. The phrase tastes fouler than Sardinia's sulfur springs. Your assigned prisonile. 3 days bring sight of crumbling watchtowers. Their bricks might have passed through your own blistered hands. Guards with missing teeth inventory your family. like damaged amphory. One stamps your forearm with a griffin brand. The ink boils your skin. Your daughter's lice-ridden scalp provides the month's first laughter until the guards join in. Your new home, a thatch-roofed hut sharing walls with Scorpio's shrine. Local fishermen eye your Latin syllables like venomous snakes. You barter masonry skills for squid ink, scratching maps of Rome's sewers onto palm fronds. The baby gnaws a minnow skeleton. Its translucent spine mirrors your own. News comes via wine merchants. Nero's golden house now houses rats, and your former overseer perished in a kiln collapse. You hum Gallic lullabies to smother vindication. The sea whispers forgotten conspiracies. Cicero's severed tongue washed ashore here once, or so drunkards claim. Winter carves your children's cheeks hollow. You teach them star navigation, using patterns scored into a broken roof tile. The same terracotta shards Rome used as voting tokens. Your wife's cough echoes through nights thick with brine and regret. Historians still argue whether exile extended to families. Your daughter's frostbitten toes vote yes. Spring finds you carving a child's tombstone from volcanic rock. No chisel marks, just fingernails and weeping. The island prefect approves your request to plant lentils in a plot bordering the execution pits. Your surviving son develops a talent for mimicking seagulls. His cries almost drown out the death moans. One humid evening, a Carthaginian smuggler offers passage to Numidia. Your wife's eyes beg, while your sons clench fists full of sand. You decline knowing the scrolls branding you enemy of state outpace all ships. Freedom now lives in the gaps between heartbeats, brief as the flash before an ink stamp descends. The horizon bleeds again at dawn. Another exile ship arrives. You don't wave. Rome's amnesia sustains you, as your own memories of forum bread and bathhouse steam blur into myth. Your daughter carves a new name in tidal muck daily. The waves lick it clean by noon. Centuries later, beachcombers will find your lentil plots mistaking them for undiscovered ruins. Your tombstone sinks into a bogget's inscription, too waterlogged to read. The griffin brand persists, a ghostly outline on a brittle ulna in some museum case. Visitors will wonder about its origin as they snack on overpriced figs. Dawn light filters through stolen glass. Each colored shard warms your calloused palm. A Carthaginian merchant demands Bacchus mosaics for his triclinium floor. Your fingers press tesserae into wet mortar, like assembling your scattered life. The smuggled cobalt glass stings with salt residue your payment. 3 millet cakes and permission to sleep in the kiln shed. Historians will later praise Romano-African mosaics as cultural fusion. You taste the lie with every crumb. Your son scavenges broken pottery from execution pits. Terra sigillata shards still bear noble family crests. A red fragment becomes Bacchus's drunken grin. You bury the senator's name under grout. The merchant's overseer kicks your ribs for daydreaming. His sandal dislodges a tessera shaped like your youngest's milk tooth. Moonlight reveals a smuggler's cache, discarded tesserae glitter in a cracked amphora. You pocket lapis lazuli, meant for imperial portraits. Bacchus gains sapphire vines curling round his thigh. Your daughter strings a stolen glass bead onto her seaweed bracelet. This tiny theft feels sweeter than Saturnalia gifts. Clay dust masks your coughs as the kiln roars. Neighbors whisper of your artisan status. Their envy wilts when they see your lash marks. The merchant's wife orders floral borders, no Christian symbols. Yet you hide a fish motif beneath Bacchus's sandal. Let future archaeologists debate primitive ichthus carvings in pagan settings. The joke outlives your termite-ridden shed. Summer bakes the lime mortar faster. You spit vinegar water to slow the setting. A Numidian slave shares pigment secrets. Crushed murex shells for purple, lead powder for white. His shackled ankles leave drag marks through the half-laid mosaic. You later sprinkle his iron dust into Bacchus's wine cup. Metal fatigue meets artistic license. The merchant's child ruins a corner section, stomping tiny sandaled feet through wet tiles. You remake the damaged border with oyster shells, their mother-of-pearl glow surpassing gold leaf. The brat's nursemaid slips you figs, a midnight feast shared over anatomical inaccuracies in Bacchus's musculature. Completion day brings a bassinet-sized gap in the design. The merchant withholds payment pending revisions. You smash a wine amphora. Blood-red terracotta shards become a leopard skin draped over Bacchus's shoulder. Historians still argue whether Roman artisans intentionally flawed works to mock patrons. Your missing supper suggests otherwise. Gale winds shatter the kiln shed. Your family shelters under the half-laid mosaic. Rain slicks the tessera into a mirror. Bacchus's grin stretches across your daughter's wind-chapped face. She traces the glass grapes. When do we eat them? Your laughter startles a gecko off the wall. It flees into the obliterating storm. The merchant's unveiling feast leaves grease smears on Bacchus's lap. Drunk guests praise your barbarian. Sandals grind oyster shell borders into powder. You pocket fallen tesserae under pretense of cleaning. Each fragment funds a spoonful of honey for your wheezing wife. Dawn finds you ripping up floor tiles. The merchant demands Egyptian motifs for his winter villa. Bacchus's shattered face fills your apron. His mismatched eyes glare from your palm. The sea reclaims your stolen glass inventory. Waves polish the blue shards into something almost beautiful. Your children pocket the smoothest pieces, tiny treasures for a future they'll never floor. Your daughter's fever breaks first, a crackling cough that shakes her bird-like frame. Garlic cloves dangle above the palate, their pungent ghosts dancing with the stench of spoiled lamb fat. You crush wet willow bark into wine. The midwife's cure tastes like acid and desperation. Historians will later debate whether this was smallpox or measles. You know only the blisters forming on her palms. Rats emerge at midday now, bold whiskered thieves, gnawing bread crusts beside your sleeping wife. The public well's queue stretches 3 streets deep. A Gaulish water seller charges a silver denarius per sip. You drink from the Tiber instead. Its muddy flow carries bloated things that might be fish or fingers. Lime pits smolder beyond the Capenna Gate, chalky smoke stinging your eyes as you drag your neighbor's corpse. Legionnaires toss bodies like sacks of millet, their linen face wraps soaked in rose oil. You pocket a fallen amulet, a lead curse tablet shaped like Claudius's doomed son. Protection through plagiarism. The bathhouse reopens as a charnel house, steam now reeking of burnt hair and myrrh. A patrician's litter races. Past you glimpse his silk mask, embroidered with fortune favors the bold. His slaves, unmasked faces tell another story. Your sister boils vinegar in every corner. The sharp vapor blurs the room into a fever dream. Her hands, once skilled at weaving marriage belts, now shake pouring nightshade tincture into a toddler's mouth. Small mercy or slow poison, the line thins daily. Market stalls sell, plague-proof, chickpeas blessed by Isis priests. You trade your last bronze bracelet for 6. The vendor drops them into your palm without touching skin, his fingernails painted with protective henna spirals. Rats scatter as you chew the dusty legumes raw. Midnight brings a cacophony of wailing, a dozen households keening for mothers, lovers, infants. You hum an old harvest song to your daughter. The melody morphs into a choked gasp when her breathing hitches. Historians still argue whether the Antonine Plague collapsed the grain supply. You measure collapse in her sunken cheeks. Dawn reveals the baker's family sprawled in the street, their skin mottled like bad marble. A looted bread cart has one moldy loaf rolling in the gutter. You let the rats claim it. Let them grow fat on Rome's decline. Burial clubs triple their fees. Your copper coins now buy half a handspan of pit space. You wrap your child in her favorite seaweed bracelet, the glass beads clinking against her collarbone like a tiny funeral bell. The lime man eyes her small form, offers a discount if you'll carry 6 others to the trench. Senators flee to coastal villas, their ox carts loaded with smoked sturgeon and personal physicians. A discarded scroll blows against your leg Seneca's letters on enduring suffering. You feed it to the cooking fire. Ash makes better ointment than philosophy. The last midwife starves herself, a final protest against unclean deathbed payments. You find her curled like a fetus beside dried river reeds, her apron pockets stuffed with unused birth charms. Irony's flavor matches the Tiber's banks, muddy and metallic. Your brother sends word from Germania, a crumpled note praising clean northern air. The ink bleeds where his tears fell, or were those raindrops. You'll frame it beside your daughter's unused swaddling cloth. 2 relics of absence. Full moons make the dying restless. They claw at doorways like ghouls from Greek tales. You bar the shutters with grinding stones, Their fingernail scratches blend with the termite tracks, already carving through the wood. The emperor decrees a public sacrifice, 40 white doves to appease Apollo. You watch their bloodied wings flap against the altar. A child laughs, thinking it's festival confetti. The gods drink their fill and stay silent. You wake to your wife braiding garlic into your hair, her eyes glassy with early infection. She mutters about Etruscan warding rituals. You don't mention the blackened toes peeking from her sandals. Pretense is the last unwithered rose in your garden. Neighbors string ropes between apartments. Baskets of wormy apples pass over corpse-strewn alleys. A one-eyed crone trades pearled barley for deathbed vigils. You haggle until she throws in a free rat pelt blanket. The wind shifts at noon, carrying salt from Ostia's abandoned docks. You inhale deeply. Maybe the sea air will scour your lungs clean. One breath tastes of fish and freedom. The next reeks of a burning corpse fleet. Twilight finds you squatting in a looted temple. Your palm cradles Minerva's cracked marble eye. Let scholars debate whether the plague began in China or Persia. You trace the goddess's fractured iris and beg for a different kind of blindness. The cellar's damp chill seeps through your tunic as you unbury the amphora, its false bottom hiding papyrus scraps kissed by forbidden crosses. Wine dregs stain the edges purple, a cheap disguise against prying eyes. Your fingers trace Greek letters describing a carpenter's resurrection. The words feel heavier than the terracotta itself. Marcus arrives at sunset, his laughter a hair too loud as he admires your vintage Falernian. Historians note early Christians used wine jars for covert texts. They rarely mention how the sour reek clung to prayers. He shifts near the storage nook, boots scuffing fresh mortar you laid yesterday. Your spine prickles. 3 rats chase each other across the ceiling beam, their shadows twisting like accusatory fingers. You offer Marcus toasted barley. He declines, claiming a full stomach. Odd, the man who once stole lentils from your sick mother's bowl. Footsteps echo above, ironclad and methodical. Marcus coughs into his fist, the signal unmistakable. Your stomach drops faster than a dropped amphora. The scrolls. The guard captain's face appears in the trapdoor, his nose wrinkling at fermented grapes and fear. They find the Ephesus letter first, its condemnation of wealth sewn into a wool cloak's lining. A soldier tears your hem with a ceremonial dagger, the blade meant for sacrificing bulls. Irony bites harder. Marcus won't meet your gaze as they wrench your arms behind your back. His reward peeks from his belt, a magistrate's seal dangling where his beggar's cup once hung. You wonder if betrayal was his idea or the price of his daughter's medicine. The forum procession feels crueler at dusk, crowds jeering with full bellies and empty hearts. Someone pelts your cheek with a rotten fig, its pulp oozing like the promises Marcus made at your sister's funeral. Historians still argue whether Christian cells met in Cloaca Maxima tunnels. You choke on open-air judgment instead. Your wife's wail cuts through the noise. She hurls a chickpea jar at the guards. It shatters at their feet, a humble weapon against imperial steel. They let her through a final cruelty. Her whisper brands your neck hotter than the irons awaiting you. The fish cost 6 denarii, code for destroying evidence. Too late, the Tullianum's stench hits first urine and hopelessness crystallizing on damp walls. A jailer snaps your bronze wedding band into his pouch, its click echoing your breaking pulse. Chains colder than alpine snow bite your ankles. Marcus visits at moonrise. His new linen toga reeks of lime and guilt. He offers water in your own stolen cup. You let it spill dark patches, spreading like his lies. His rehearsed speech falters at your silence, words as empty as the amphora they'll break you against. Guards debate whether to feed you to lions or use you as a furnace tender. You stare at the ceiling, counting cracks like ceiling tiles on your wedding night. The carpenter's story mentioned forgiveness. Tonight, you'd rather chew broken glass. Dawn leaks through barred windows, its light painting the graffiti of a crucified fish on your cell wall. Some previous tenant's rebellion or desperate plea. You press your palm against it. The charcoal still smudges. Hope's last fingerprints. They drag you out as merchants hawk sunrise bread, the scent taunting your hollow stomach. The crowd's boos morph into cheers for a passing gladiator procession. You envy their honorable deaths. The magistrate's scroll lists your crimes: blasphemy, sedition, owing 5 years back taxes. The third charge draws the loudest gasps. They sell your daughter to a fuller's workshop before your sentence finishes. Her muffled scream follows you to the rusted dagger's edge. You die as rain begins, drops washing your blood into the same gutters where Marcus once begged. Somewhere, a fish symbol fades in the storm and 10 denarii clink in a trader's pocket. The rusted dagger's edge catches the last light, its blade nicked from parrying truths you can't bear to share. Your granddaughter tugs your cloak, her voice trembling like the faltering watchfires on the northern hills. Grandfather, why do the stars blink like dying candles tonight? You force a grin wider than the cracks in the Aqua Marcia aqueduct. The gods are oiling their lanterns, preparing for tomorrow's feast. The lie tastes fouler than week-old garum beyond the Aurelian walls, rebuilt after those Gothic raids. Everyone pretends to forget drum's pulse like a fevered heartbeat. Historians still argue whether the final Hunnish envoy carried truce terms or severed heads in that suspiciously round sack. Your fingers brush the dagger's pommel, a bull-headed figure worn smooth by generations of anxious grips. The family myth claims it came from a betrayed Christian cell. You doubt martyrs clutch weapons this shoddy. She points at smoke plumes staining the horizon ochre. The signal fires. You nod, though you know damn well Ostia's docks burned last week. Quirky factoids surface, like how some legionaries line their helmets with lamb's wool against phantom winter chills. Useless now. The breeze carries not salt from the sea, but the musky stench of unwashed warriors and their war horses, 3 generations back. Your ancestor died choking on rain and betrayal. You clutch her hand tighter. The daggers wait whispers of choices. Flee south to Sicilian olive groves, or become another brick in Rome's crumbling narrative. Your sandal grinds a fragmented mosaic into dust. Bacchus's grin now, just a wine-stained cheek. Hooves clatter on cobblestones, too many to be merchants. A sentry's horn wails the alarm they've practiced never believed they'd need. Your granddaughter pockets a fallen laurel leaf, its edges curled like a senator's scroll. Will the story stop? She asks. You sheath the dagger with a click final as an executioner's axe. Never, but the next chapters require creative editing. You lead her past the roofless Senate House, its marble steps cracked open like a picked scab. Someone's scratched VANDALIVICTORES over Augustan era reliefs, the grammar atrocious, but the message clear. She pauses to trace defaced eagle standards, their once proud wings, now stubby scratches. They look like sick chickens, she whispers. You bite back a laugh. Gallows humor is still humor. The 10th Legion's barracks stand abandoned, mice nesting in breastplates designed to stop Persian arrows. A lone mule grazes on triumphal banners, emperors, faces dissolving under slobbery chomps. Your sandal kicks an ivory dice, double sixes, luck's last sneer. You pocket it, a charm for when prayers fail. Cries erupt near the grain dole. A skeletal woman swings a sack of millet like a flail. Guards jab at her with ceremonial spears, their blades dulled by decades of peace. Your granddaughter stiffens. Is that? You steer her away. Hunger makes ghosts of us all. 300 years of bread and circuses, ending with a widow's cracked knuckles. At the Tiber's edge, you spot a barge overloaded with statues, limbs snapped off to fit more plunder. A painted eye stares up from the mud, Juno's pupil, chipped by some barbarian's boot. Religious to the last, even in flight. The boatman demands double the usual fare. You decline. Drowning seems kinder than seeing Sicily become Rome. Night falls faster these days, shadows pooling like spilled pitch. You barricade the door with a bust of Marcus Aurelius. His nose makes a decent wedge. The dagger spins on the table, its wobble echoing your fraying resolve. Tell me about the fish man again, she pleads, clutching a moth-eaten lamb doll. You omit the betrayal, the chains, the way her great-great-grandmother's scream outlasted the rain. Outside, the drums stop. Silence is worse. No owl hoots, no drunk sings off-key hymns to Venus, no auxiliaries argue over dice. Just the creak of your dagger being drawn. She sleeps fitfully, thumb in mouth, a habit you'd scolded her for last summer. Let her have this. Let her have anything. Dawn reveals the truth in gradients. The eastern gate hangs open, its hinges splintered like kindling. No bodies, just a lone green cloak flapping on a nail. Alaric's calling card. Your heel crushes a clay shard stamped SPQR, the letters fracturing into nonsense. Rome's final act, a comedy in 3 crumbling syllables. They come at noon, not the giants from Germania's Thales, but lean men smelling of turnips and envy. The leader's axe bears copper inlays stolen from a Dacian museum piece, no doubt. He barks demands, in mangled Latin, demands your dagger. You spit at his feet, the globule landing on a spider scurrying toward safer ruins. Your granddaughter's whimper cuts through the standoff. The dagger clatters down. You barely recognize your own surrender. The barbarian snorts, examines the blade, and snaps it over his knee. Cheap iron, after all. He tosses the pieces into the gutter, your lineage reduced to scrap. They leave you alive, the ultimate insult. She stares at the broken hilt. Is this the end? You finger the ivory dice in your pouch, double sixes still up. Somewhere a throat singer chants victory or a dirge. You pull her close. No, it's intermission. The city burns in neat sections, temple roofs collapsing like roasted chestnut shells. You join the exodus, passing Christians chanting, while clutching pyramid-shaped amulets, syncretisms, sticky fingers, outlasting empire. A one-legged veteran offers her a honeyed fig. His price is hearing her laugh. Sold. At the Appian Way's 8th milestone, she finds a wild chickadee nest, the hatchlings beaks wide and demanding. You murmur the old rhyme, swallow, swallow, sing a sorrow. She finishes the forbidden line. Tomorrow belongs to the sparrow. The dagger's ghost twitches in your palm, camped in a latifundia's wine cellar. You carve new shepherds into the walls, crude stick figures holding spears. She asks why their eyes are X's. Because they're watching for surprises, you lie. Sleep comes fitfully, the drums replaced by wolves debating their turn to rule. You wake to her tracing your wrinkles with soot-stained fingers. Will we ever build a new Rome? Dawn paints her face, gold momentarily, hiding the smudges. You shrug. Empires are like olives, best crushed to release what little oil they hide. She frowns, rolls the disset, and smiles at whatever the gods allow. The road stretches endlessly, each mile marker toppled like rotten teeth. You hum a legion's marching song, deliberately off-key. She skips ahead, innocence, outrunning the past. The broken dagger's legacy weighs less than a sparrow's feather. For now, that's enough. End of section 30. The road stretches ahead, cobblestones surrendering to dirt and wild grasses. Your granddaughter hums a tuneless melody, fingers still sticky from that veteran's fig. Dawn light filters through cypress, trees painting her hair, the dusty gold of forgotten mosaics. You adjust the moth-eaten lamb doll tucked in your belt. Its missing eye, a shared secret. Breezes carry the tang of distant olive groves, not smoke. She skips over a cracked milestone, shouting numbers you pretend not to recognize. A chickadee darts past, its flight path stitching the sky like a lazy tailor's thread. You breathe deeper here, air unspoiled by torch oil or siege engines. Her shadow stretches long, suddenly taller than you remember. Do the stars blink in Sicily? She asks, pocketing a pinecone. You pause, letting the question linger with the cicadas' dusk chorus. Only when we forget to watch, you murmur a truth softer than lamb's wool. The dice rest heavy in your pouch, double sixes facing down now. Let them stay buried. At the crossroads, a weathered shrine stands, its niche empty, but for a clay bowl of rainwater. She adds a pebble, her offering weightier than emperor's ashes. Moonrise finds you camped beneath a fig tree, its branches cradling the dark like a nanny. She traces stick figure shepherds on your arm with a charcoal nub, their exide vigilance a game now. Sleep comes easier here, no drums, just owls trading gossip across the valley. You wake to her laughter, a sound unchained from marble halls. She's strung laurel leaves into a crown, threading them through the lamb doll's paws. For the Sparrow Queen, she declares, you bow your knees, protesting like rusty hinges, and swear fealty to her twig scepter. The dagger's absence feels lighter each mile, its ghost outrun by living. Her small hand finds yours as the road bends westward, where salt-kissed winds promise nothing and everything. You match her stride, two scribes rewriting an ending in footprints. Night falls gently here. Stars rise, not blinking, winking.